Welcome back, griefsense fam. Thanks for joining in on another episode of the griefsense podcast. I love spending this time with you. This podcast is really an authentic expression of my joy, my mental health, and really kind of just like this video diary of my life while I honor the people that have passed in my life and just honoring their legacies through the amazing things that I get to do every single day. But above all, the most amazing thing that I get to do every day while I'm still here is to be alive, to breathe, to walk, to see, to feel, to touch, to create, to eat, to see everything. I'm just feeling this overwhelming sense of gratitude lately, and that's sparked by quite a few experiences, lots to update you on. But first, because I need a moment of grounding, and I hope that you could also use a moment of grounding, I'm going to take a breath, okay? So please feel free to take this breath with me before we dive into today's conversation. So I'm going to breathe in for 4. I'm going to hold for 4, and I'm going to exhale for 4. Okay, so let's inhale for 4. Hold and exhale. Okay, I really needed that. It's been a week. So this week started with a really traumatic plane experience. And I definitely think it has a lot to do with all of the news that has been happening with planes in general. So that did not help my situation. But this past weekend, I visited my cousin in Chicago. I got to surprise her for her baby shower. A quick trip, 3 days, cool, calm, cool, collected. Had to come back home to Connecticut. And as we were on the plane, on the tarmac, kind of getting ready to take off, like the plane literally started to take off, y'all. It kind of slammed to a stop and then like kept speeding and then had to stop again. And we waited for hours just to see like what the heck was going on. Long story short, there was a huge maintenance issue with the plane. So thank goodness we did not take off, avoiding just kind of down, plummeting down from the sky. Like we don't need that. I like my life. um, so yeah, so that was really intense, and I was supposed to get home back to Connecticut around like 7 or 8 p.m. and I ended up getting back at like 4 in the morning. Went to bed at 5, and my whole sleep schedule is completely off. Not to mention daylight savings. So um, here we are. But I am here, and that is all that matters. And while I was on the plane, like waiting for hours because I literally had nothing else to do, was contemplate my life and just really practice gratitude. And I did what any normal person would do when the plane is in an existential crisis, and they journal. In my journaling entries, I really kind of just talked about, like, I was reflecting on why do we wait till like the very last minute, or why do we wait till people are gone to give them their flowers? As always, in grief sense fashion, I like to give my flowers to people who have died in my life. So today I want to talk about 2 special people in my life that have transitioned, because both of their birthdays are this month, and they've had incredible impacts on my life, and especially my formative years, like not my adult life, more like my childhood and teenagehood. So the first person I want to talk about is my grandmother and godmother. She baptized me when I think I was like 3 or 4 years old, but her name is Josefina Torres. And the second person I want to talk about is Megan Victoria Leroy, one of my best friends who passed away when I was about 16. I was 15 turning 16, and she had just turned 17 when she unfortunately unalived herself. Now, we are also in Women's Month. And I think that's really important to share, because these are 2 incredibly important women in my life and just have really shaped a lot of how I identify, how I move, how I approach different things, like literally down from like the colors that I wear to how I have conversations to how I treat people, how I love myself. So let's get down to it. So The first person I want to talk about is my grandmother, Josefina Torres. So, in short, we called her Wela Sefa. For those that don't speak Spanish, Wela is short for abuela, but we called her Wela Sefa. With her, it always makes me really emotional when I talk about her, because she is someone who taught me what the words like chosen family meant. Long story short, my mother had me at 17 years old, and her and my father were together, grew up together, and my dad unfortunately passed 8 months after I was born. We had a really tough experience, right? Like, we did experience homelessness. We did experience, just not a stable home, not a lot of support from family. It was literally just my mom and this teeny little baby, me. And one of my mom's friends was really helping us out, gave my mom diapers, gave her a car, was really helping get on her feet. And that person's name is Flito, someone who I now refer to as my tío, Tío Flito. And he introduced us to his mom, who happened to be Wela Sefa. And without question, without anything, Wela Sefa basically adopted me and my mom, like took us in. Like, I was living in her house, was there every day, like she raised me. Like, she literally helped my mom raise me. I didn't really have relationships with my biological grandparents at that time, and so she was who I called grandma or Wela. And so, yeah, and she ended up baptizing me, and her whole family became my family. And just to bring Teoflito back into the picture, his daughter, her name is Evie, is now like my best friend cousin, and I call her my prima bestie, which is so wild how the world works. But anyway, so that's a little bit of context about Wela Sefa. And I've just been really thinking about the lessons that she's instilled in me. I've already talked about like the chosen family aspect. Like, she really taught me that you can pick the people who are going to play an important role in your life. You can pick them. You can release who is not supposed to be in your life either. But she really taught me the importance of chosen family and what it's like to show up. And y'all, she was a single woman, single parent, single grandparent, like, and she raised all of my cousins. She raised all of us without hesitation, just with so much love and joy and fun. And she really did that. Like, she did that. So I kind of had that experience of strong, independent woman from day one. And, something else that I really do appreciate about my grandmother is that she was really dedicated to her faith. And I just think a lot about this word devotion and dedication. And, I'm not really a religious person. I am a deeply spiritual person. However, I did grow up in the church with Wela Sefa. Multiple times a week, we were in church. And that continued to happen until my early teens. I just loved how she had her little community of her little friends, and they would go to events, and that was what fueled her and gave her so much purpose and life and love to give. And I think that really helped me have that discipline and dedication to the things that I like and things that I like to do. So yeah, and that was kind of like a recent reflection that I had. That's something I'm definitely like super grateful for. But yeah, so Wela Sefa really taught me these amazing life lessons, and all throughout, we had a lot of fun in the house, and she taught me how to make coffee. I had to make coffee for everyone, even though I didn't drink coffee myself. I had to make coffee for the whole family. um, there was always people playing dominoes. Like, she was the queen of playing dominoes in the house. She's definitely like your traditional Puerto Rican grandmother. Um, and always had food. Like, you wouldn't leave the house hungry. Like, you were going to be fed. And even if you were hungry, she would be offended that you came to the house fed, and she will make you eat again. But due to the food and how delicious it was, you would somehow have another appetite and want to eat Wela Sefa's rice and beans. We also had there's always telenovelas playing. Like, listen, telenovelas was our life. That was the way to life, was watching our novelas. And also a lot of lottery tickets since I was 6 years old, because I was always counting the numbers on my Wella's lottery tickets. And it was just a really fun family thing that we got to do together. But she actually passed in 2018, and she was able to come to my master's graduation, which is a memory that I hold near and dear to my heart, that she was able to see me walk the stage before she passed away. And I'm just always gonna love me some Wela Sefa. And I really wanted to bring her up today because Evie, who I brought up earlier, my prima bestie, my cousin, her and I are having this amazing experience of opening a cafe. It's called Hasta Luego Friend, and we're opening it right in our hometown of Hartford, Connecticut, not far from where we grew up. And it just makes me feel like, and I'm getting emotional. It just makes me feel like Wela Sefa is with us every single day. Like, through every cup of coffee that we get to serve, through, people get to experience her legacy through us. And it's such a gift. It's such an honor and a privilege to be able to do that. And I wish she was here physically, to experience it all. But I know that she's with us. But it's something that's happening in real time. Like, my cousin was just on the news today, um, about this whole process of opening this cafe. And right now we're a mobile coffee bar, so we get to travel to different locations, in Connecticut, Mass, and New York. And now we get to open our brick and mortar. Like, it's literally a dream come true. It's a big accomplishment for our family, because we've been through back to back to back loss and tragedy, and this just feels like a major win for our family, for Hartford, for Connecticut, for Latinos, for Puerto Ricans, for the culture. Like, and my cousin, it's a queer owned cafe, so for the LGBT community, and just a place for safety and belongingness and love and community and culture. And like Wela Sefa, a whole lot of dominoes. And next, I want to talk about Meghan. And she would have turned 31 this year. Meghan is someone that I was able to grow up with. I met her when I was about 6 or 7 years old, and she was actually my half sister's best friend. But ended up kind of growing up with her as well, and we really just became like the three musketeers, the three of us. We did everything together, like everything you can think of. And she's always on my mind, especially because she was kind of one of the formative losses that I had early on in my life. It really kind of started everything for me. It started my public speaking journey. It started my community organizing journey. It started my creativity journey. Like, just everything I owe a lot to Meghan. And when I think about Meghan, I think about someone who is bold, someone who's unapologetically themselves, someone who loves adventure, someone who listens to music really loud on blast, and there's no other way to listen to music. Um, she is someone who would have loved TikTok and probably would have definitely been an influencer from dancing trends, because she was the one who taught me all of she taught me how to jerk. You're a jerk, I know. You're a jerk, I know. She taught me that dance. She taught me how to teach me how to Dougie. She taught me, everything, all the dances. Like, that was her thing. And also, whenever anyone says the word Eve, the name Eve, the rapper, that was one of her favorite artists, especially one of the songs, Love is Blind. Love is blind, and it'll take over your mind. What you think is love is truly not. You need to elevate and find. Not the best singer in the world, but that song. I just think of Eve, and then I think of Meghan. It's just like, ah. But, you know, another thing, like just kind of with this, having this boldness top of mind, right? She is actually a lot of the inspiration behind Grief Sense, the color orange. Now, the color orange, it hasn't always been my favorite color. Like I remember when I was younger, my favorite color was like blue and green and purple. And then after experiencing all of this loss, orange became my favorite color. And I think it had a lot to do with Meghan because she always wore these bright, funky colors. She loved pink. Also, why I painted my nails pink for this month, for her birthday. She was just always wearing bright, funky colors, wild patterns. And she was just loud and boisterous and fun and adventurous and definitely super bold. Like she said, whatever was on her mind. Like if she thought it, you were gonna hear it. Like no ands, if, buts, or maybes. Like that's just what you see is what you got. Um, and I think it really inspired me a lot to be bold, to speak unapologetically, to just be authentically myself because we have this one life. We have this one life, y'all. We get to make our own rules for how we want to live. I don't live my life by anyone else's rules. And I honestly owe a lot of that to Meghan, just the way that she was. And it became even stronger in her death. Like I felt like we kind of weirdly got closer in her death than we were in person, even though we were together pretty frequently. Um, but yeah, so I was thinking a lot about that, and just color psychology in general was really fascinating to me, and you should definitely look into the color psychology of orange. It's a really positive color, uplifting, especially when you're going through hard times. And so after experiencing so much loss, and as a reminder, y'all, I've lost 36 people in my life. I found wearing bright colors or just having bright colors in my space, in my office, and just around me in my clothes, um, screensavers on my phone, right? Like it was just a way to live boldly and that I'm alive and that life is worth living. And orange just really became that color for me. It was the color of life and vitality and creativity. And it's also the color of the sacral root chakra, where a lot of creativity stems from. So yeah, anyways, really fascinating, and Meghan really kind of kicked that off for me and inspired me to be that way. And with that, right, I also kind of wanted to talk about, since we are in Women's Month, for all my ladies and femme presenting women and even our non-binary and gender non-conforming folks, I really wanted to take some space to honor what it is to be a woman. Like, this world is so hard to navigate. There's so much lack of safety in all of the spaces that we live in. Workplace, schools, social media, right? It's in our own homes and our relationships, how much of these constant interactions that we have with these systems and people who enable these systems that are constantly conditioning us, right? That there's so much lack of safety in this world. And when we're able to find, our chosen family, when we're able to be creative and to be bold, a lot of that, comes from having safety in those spaces. But that's like a conscious choice that you have to make because our world is so filled with lack of safety, right? So it's been really a calling of mine recently to not only create these safe spaces, right, but to talk about what it takes to create a safe space and to be a safe space, and how hard it is for us women to be safe when everything was designed for us not to be safe, not to be successful, not to love, not to feel loved, not to feel supported. um and that's really sad. And so kind of just got me thinking about all of the decisions that my Wela had to make to get to where she was, and how many times she didn't feel safe in her life, you know? Or even with Meghan, like she unfortunately died by unaliving herself, and how many conditions or what were the factors in her life at that time that did not make her feel safe, leading her to make that decision. Um, and I remember after she passed, I did not feel safe for a really, really, really long time. Um, and it takes a lot to be human in this world, but it also is a lot to be a woman. And with that, I've been really just reflecting on how I can reclaim my womanhood, because there's been so many attacks on my identity, on my safety. I mean, I've had my safety violated several times. Um, and I know I'm not alone in that. I know that we've all experienced that in some ways. Having a womb, having a menstrual cycle every month, like I used to hate it. I used to hate it so much. I used to hate being a woman. Like, why do we have to deal with these things and men don't have to experience these things? Um, but just reflecting on these amazing women that I've had in my life, and this pain that I've endured, all of this grief, all of this loss, I've really been trying to reclaim that and redefine this narrative of the divine feminine in my life, and what that means to me, and what my womanhood is, what femininity means to me. And ultimately, I do think that it's creation, it's love, it's safety, it's a portal between worlds, it's a bridge between worlds. Um, I just feel like we're just powerful beings. Like, just to talk about the menstrual cycle for a little bit. Like, I am someone who has suffered from really, really painful menstrual periods since I was a teenager. That ultimately led to me being on birth control at a really young age. And my cramps have not gone away. They're very painful still. And it's still lovely to be a woman sometimes. Yeah. But I've since reclaimed my painful periods. So whenever I'm experiencing cramps now, well, first off, let me say I've reclaimed the word period into my moon cycle. I call it my moon cycle, because it really is a transformative and very deeply spiritual experience that happens. And even I know some of us don't get our periods every month, or some maybe never have gotten it at all. But even hormonally, and how we adjust to the ways of the world, like we all experience this very deeply transformative and spiritual experience. And so now, when my moon cycle comes around and I do experience cramps, I really, y'all, I'll be fighting for my life. But now I've reclaimed that into this. These are my growing pains. This is me feeling in real time, shedding a previous layer of myself, a previous version of myself that is not going to serve me for this next version of myself. And that's kind of helped me just sit with it, sit with the pain, allow for the pain to be here, telling my womb that it's okay, and I welcome this pain and I sit with it. I don't try to push it away. I don't try to not think about it anymore. I just sit with it intentionally and consciously. And I actually, not gonna lie, I manifest. I always say, like, when you're on your moon cycle, it's the most powerful time to manifest and welcome just new abundance into your life. But all of that comes with safety, the internal safety that I've been able to create for myself, and being connected to the things that bring me joy, like doing this podcast and just creating. And so just really reclaiming my womanhood, and surrounding myself with, chosen family, people who are expanders in my life, who expand my mind and my energy, and bring me new experiences to reflect and think about. But yeah, I've just been really thinking about all of this, and I just, with all of this in mind, I've just really been thinking about how can I continue to create that safety for myself, for others that interact with me, and also how can I continue to honor Megan and my grandmother Wela Sefa into my life every day? How can I channel them and honor them in these ways? And just really love being a woman and falling in love with that again. So yeah, I think that there's an opportunity for us when we are on our moon cycles to release any harm or violence or lack of safety or stress that's stored in our pelvic floors. And I just wish we honored that and held more importance of that every day instead of just in Women's Month. So that's kind of a call to action for me and for for any of those listening. But with that, just really wanted to share some thoughts that have been top of mind for me and honor my people as I always do. And so, in true Megan fashion, I plan to continue to be bold, to try new things, to be adventurous, to listen to my music extra loud, maybe bump some Eve soon. But I've been really thinking about how can I show up in a bold way, right? And bold for me might not be bold for you. Like we all have different unique ways on what bold could really look like in our lives. Um, but that's kind of a takeaway for me. It's something I need to work on. How can I show up more boldly this month and for this year in honor of my girl Megan? And with Wela Sefa, I really want to channel my faith, but faith in myself, devotion to my craft, and just being really disciplined with it, sitting with it consciously every day. And as I draw from my womanhood and my femininity and this portal of creation that I have, how can I create in really meaningful and profound ways that allow not only me to expand, my mental and my visions, but also allow me to expand safety for myself and expand the minds and hearts and visions of other people around me. And so that's my charge for myself and my charge for you all. And I would love to hear your reflections on that, if anything resonated with you. And with that, I wanted to remind y'all to check out the GriefSense website, y'all. Go to griefsense.com. I recently launched our newsletter. It's called The Sala, because this is our sala. This is our living room where we get to talk about grief, we get to talk about love, we get to talk about life lessons, creativity, all of the things that a lot of people do not hold safe spaces for to talk about. So I definitely implore you to go to the Grief Sense website, check out our newsletter, please subscribe. And also, if you would like to share your story, you can. There's a link there where you can, there's some questions, you submit your story, and then I can feature you in our newsletter. So please do that. And I look forward to seeing how you will channel your inner Megan and your inner Wela Sefa, or anyone else in your life that you have lost that you hold near and dear to your heart. And with that, hope you have a great day, and I'll see you soon, Grief Sense fam. Adios. Or shall I say, hasta luego, friend.